we have been seeing a revolution when it comes to Bitcoin on the balance sheet for corporations, and something that essentially has never been seen before. We are seeing a potential of 10,000 publicly traded companies coming on and buying Bitcoin and putting it on the balance sheet. That's not just bullish green candles saying that. That is the Kraken CEO also coming out and saying that. But why are we seeing this? Well, because of the news that just broke today. We're seeing Coinbase go onto the S&P 500. Now, why is the S&P 500 absolutely vital for Coinbase? And why are we seeing this be such a dramatic change for the market? Well, first, let's line it out. We have Ryan Rasmussen posting this great chart here as to why being on the S&P 500 matters, right? It's because it will give about $15 billion worth towards Coinbase's stock right from the jump. All it takes is Coinbase being added to the S&P 500. Now, I get it. Coinbase has been a little sketchy, and I'm not saying that you should go and buy Bitcoin on your Coinbase account and do all that. And I will essentially go and dive into why I think that here later on. But as the saying goes, Coinbase is even having a little fun with this. As the saying goes, first they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, then they add you to the S&P 500 or something like that. Either way, we're seeing the massive amounts of attention that Bitcoin is getting to these corporations. Like, it's absolutely changing the game. The Kraken CFO, which I alerted to earlier, has now estimated that 10,000 publicly traded companies will come to putting Bitcoin on the balance sheet. And that is a lot more than what we're seeing here these days. We're seeing, let's pull this up. We're seeing 197 total entities holding Bitcoin. And that's only 104 publicly traded Bitcoin or publicly traded companies having Bitcoin on the balance sheet. So that's a 99x increase is what this Kraken CFO is predicting. Now, it's now all because of Michael Saylor and the work that he's doing, right? The man in the orange tie, the legend here, has been seeing his company go from essentially a zombie company and to a massive corporation, potentially looking at one of the biggest in the world. And we've seen Strategy B go from essentially a zombie company to the 157th ranked company by market cap now. Now, before you say, okay, that's not super impressive, 157. Well, Strategy B is being traded like a magnificent seven. The volume that you see on Strategy B is astronomical. You've seen the stock price go over 100x since the implementation of Bitcoin on the balance sheet. And I continue to think that that's going to be something that dramatically continues over this period. So we're going to start to see the way that all of corporations are going to be looking at Bitcoin on the balance sheet. We're going to see this start to increase over time. And because this is going to increase over time, we're going to start to see the amount of money that is going to be poured into Bitcoin and Bitcoin on the balance sheet. The infinite money glitch, as I love to describe here from Michael Saylor, is going to continue to rapidly increase. And now, for those of you that don't know about this quote infinite money glitch that I love to show you guys on all these different live streams, it's this reflexive flywheel here. This is one of my favorite graphics that I love to show, but it really hammers home the point of what MSTR has been doing. They've been essentially issuing debt to buy Bitcoin. Bitcoin price thus increases. Thus, the MSTR market cap increases, starting that flywheel, right? Then it gets added to some indices like the NASDAQ 100, which MSTR recently got added to. So once MSTR's market cap increases, its weight in the indice or the NASDAQ 100 indice increases. Same thing with the potential of Coinbase here if they start to put more Bitcoin on the balance sheet. And we'll get into all of that here in a second. But MSTR will then issue more equity to buy Bitcoin. Then Bitcoin price will increase. MSTR's market cap will increase. Thus, the net weight in the NASDAQ 100 will increase again. And thus, they will issue more Bitcoin to buy, or issue more debt to buy more Bitcoin. So then the never ending cycle will continue. But it's interesting because it looks like it's genius all in 2020, and all in hindsight. But Brian Armstrong, now that they're a part of the S&P 500, has come out and said that they've considered putting 80% of their balance sheet into crypto, but decided against it. So they decided, hey, we are not going to put 80% of their balance sheet into Bitcoin. They were going to do it, but then they've decided against that. So why did they decide to do that against it? Well, maybe they thought it was too volatile. Maybe they didn't believe 100% in the market. There's a lot of issues here as well, but there's always been some hairiness around Coinbase. And as many of you know who come to this channel, I love talking about the potential of issuing that paper Bitcoin that Coinbase has, because currently they have 13% of the overall Bitcoin supply in one custodian, which I think is definitely something that you should very much so watch, right? Like you should be watching your back a little bit here, right? When it comes to all things considered based on paper Bitcoin, because we've seen it previously, right? We've seen FTXs, we've seen the Celsiuses, we've seen the BlockFis, we've seen all of those previously. And at the end of the day, you want to have that true physical Bitcoin. And so don't get your Bitcoin on exchange, because Coinbase didn't even trust itself to put Bitcoin on their balance sheet. Many of you psychopaths in the chat here are all saying, hey, we want to put Bitcoin, we want to go all in 100% or whatever it is. Coinbase has been the main custodian for all of these ETFs. They're 9 out of the 13 Bitcoin ETFs, all held with Coinbase, one single entity, right? So watch out for them. But, it is encouraging to see that they got added to the S&P 500. I think that is a positive sign for the overall market. And it's a big change in what we'll see to Bitcoin on the balance sheet. But I mean, everybody's kind of been predicting this for quite some time. We even had Bitwise put it out earlier this year that their top 10 predictions, Coinbase will enter the S&P 500 and Strategy will enter the NASDAQ 100, which is what happened as well. But the interesting part about all of this is we're still seeing CEOs doubt Bitcoin. We're still seeing that. We've had Michael Dell tweet out about positive things about Bitcoin. We've seen them go back and forth about Bitcoin, Michael Saylor and Michael Dell. But we've also start to see this. Dell followed in Microsoft's footsteps and has dismissed the shareholder proposal to put Bitcoin on the balance sheet. Previously sparked speculation about a potential Bitcoin thing, but the shareholders want Dell to embrace Bitcoin, but this SEC rules the proposal can be dropped. So Dell argued that the proposal concerned ordinary business operations and should remain under management's control, right? The interesting thing is Dell used to be one of the big dogs, right? They're the 267th largest company by market cap, right? So this used to be where, we would see Apple and Dell. I mean, even growing up in the Austin, Texas area, before Apple moved one of its branches down there, all of my friends' parents worked for Dell. Dell was one of the tops, right? We would see, in schools, in middle school, in high school, or in elementary school, all of my high school stuff, or all of my elementary, middle school, all had Dell computers. Dell was the number one, the top dog. Then Apple came in and swooped in because Dell didn't like to innovate. They saw somebody come in and be more innovative, like make something a little bit more sleek. Now, what are you seeing? Same kind of deal. Dell is falling behind all of this. And why are they doing that, right? They are seeing, all of these companies shoot past them. Michael Dell has been selling off Dell stock and buying Bitcoin, or allegedly, potentially being Mr. 100. We don't know if that's actually, coming through, but they have been shooting it all down. The US SEC granted multi-billion-dollar tech firm Dell Technologies the permission to exclude shareholder proposals of including Bitcoin on the balance sheet. So it's, something that we're seeing companies start to embrace, but we're also seeing other ones start to move away from, right? So let's check out what we got in the chat here. Down Under Blues is saying, yes, it's just more expensive in the future. And I agree with you. This is what we're going to see is like, then we'll start to see some of these corporations start to FOMO into Bitcoin. They're going to borrow more money. It's going to be more expensive. And this is going to be where we see essentially the supply squeeze that we've know and love and talked about all of this all over this channel. Because if you look at the total amount, and I'll pull that up here, the amount of shares bought by MSTR, right? The amount of shares bought by MSTR, comparing the amount of Bitcoin that's just, going on these exchanges, we're seeing something that we've never really seen before, right? We're seeing the amount that is being issued compared to the issuance actually flipped. And this is the first time that we're, essentially seeing this at all. And I don't know if I could find this tab for you guys. I should have brought that up prior. But either way, we're seeing the revolution of Bitcoin on the balance sheet really start to take off. And I think we're gonna see, this absolutely explode as far as like Bitcoin on the balance sheet. But let's check out what we got going on here. I'll sell BTC when needed because I'm always ahead. Coinbase is basically my bank. You can't pay rent in Bitcoin. Hey, that's fair, but I would caution you. I would have some sort of a stack that you have in self custody, and then maybe have some on Coinbase that you need to pay your bills, right? But as Down Under Blues is saying, there's always a reason. There's always a price or reason to sell. I personally haven't found that reason after 4 years of buying. There we go, baby. I love it. And I think that there's going to be more of these products where you could borrow against your Bitcoin. I think those are coming where you're eventually not going to have to sell your Bitcoin. We're seeing banks start to custody Bitcoin as well. I'm not saying trust your banks or do anything like that to custody your Bitcoin, just like I'm saying don't do that. But there are more ways to borrow against your Bitcoin, and they're all coming soon. Down Under Blues is asking if I could do a tutorial on wishing well and the Bitbox. Hey, yes, I can do that. Maybe I will here in the future. That is a great idea. I'll talk with both of the sponsors and see if they'd be willing to do that. Maybe they already have resources. I will check that out. JG 1982 saying it will take a few years for Bitcoin to not be available for retail on Coinbase. You will have to buy MSTR. And I think that's all because of, what we're starting to see as the revolution here, right? We're starting to see, Jack Mallers, Michael Saylor, all of these big dogs coming in and buying up Bitcoin, right? So we're seeing 21 now wanting to be the biggest Bitcoin holding companies. And we're starting to see that revolution really start to take off. We also saw earlier this week the legend David Bailey also announced that now Nakamoto is going to be even bigger, right? So it's absolutely insane. We're seeing all of these things start to increase. We're seeing the rapid FOMO come in, and Nakamoto wants to buy more Bitcoin than Strategy. Good luck, with the amount of money that and the head start that Michael Saylor has had. But it's continuing to rise and rise and rise. And we're starting to see the potential of this short squeeze because of what we're seeing as the number of Bitcoin on exchanges just actually drop, and the amount of buying pressure continuing to get higher and higher. I mean, look at this, right? We're seeing this flip here. Bitcoin price going up and the amount of Bitcoin on exchanges continuing to go down. And so I think that we're going to start to see this. We're going to continue to see this over time. And that's going to cause some hairiness because we're sitting here at 104,000 and we're not done yet, folks. We're just getting started in this here. We're just getting started in what we are seeing as far as holding on to Bitcoin and doing all that. And Down Under Blues was asking for a potential of a tutorial. I know my friends over at the Bitcoin Way, I've been told I look like a funeral director in this picture. So ignore that. But my friends over the Bitcoin Way can also help you. If you guys want me to help you, I'm more than happy to do that. But I know my friends over at the Bitcoin Way do this. They accept Bitcoin for payment. They can help you with multi-sig. They can help you with self-custody. They have over 25 years of cybersecurity experience, and they will help you get your Bitcoin off an exchange, as well as potentially doing the Plan B passport if you're looking for another one. So Down Under Blues saying I look like a funeral director. Look, all right, I'm normally not a suit guy. I'm normally backwards hat kind of thing, but maybe, just maybe you guys would trust me a little bit more, or maybe some people would trust me a little bit more if I have a suit on. Who knows? But these personal loans give you better rates than Bitcoin backed loans, assuming you have good credit. Yes, that is true. And we also are seeing products like that being released by Jack Mallers and Strike, right? So, I think that that's another big revolution. We're going to start to see more of these products and services start to come about. And part of what we're seeing is, Bitcoin on the balance sheet for all of these major corporations. And why? Well, Bitcoin is the best performing asset there is, right? I look like Bobby's mom. I don't know who's Bobby. But hey, if she's hot, maybe I'll take that as a compliment. I don't know. Um, who know? Bobby. Hi, Bobby's mom. I don't know what that even means, Slate, but hey, maybe I do look like Bobby's mom. But I also had some crazy, maybe I'll go on this little tangent here for you guys. I had a crazy experience the other day with AI where we had, they posted a picture of me on Snapchat, which, say what you want about some of these social media accounts, but AI is getting absolutely crazy. And they posted this and decided to notify me of this. And I said, I'm calling the cops because of what they're showing me here. This looks a little hairy. So I don't know, guys. We're all having fun and games here, but the funeral director saying I look like a woman, who knows? But either way, what we're seeing Coinbase getting on the S&P 500 is absolutely massive. We're going to start to see more corporations put Bitcoin on the balance sheet. And we're going to start to see a revolution of Bitcoinized companies really start to pay off, right? And I think that these things are going to drastically change the way that businesses are run, drastically change the way corporations are thought of, and drastically change the financial landscape. So if you haven't already, make sure you smoke that like Cheech and Chong. Hit that subscribe button. Tell a friend to come to the Green Candle live streams because I'm giving away free sats every single time. And I will see you guys all at the next one.